This is Coach Lee, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about what the dumper goes through versus the dumpee, or the person that they've dumped. And I'm going to give you kind of a timeline that will help you see how the two of you compare to each other and how the tables can sometimes turn. Take a second and click the subscribe button below so you can be notified when I have more videos like this on relationships. And I'm also going to be publishing some videos that will be helpful to those of you who struggle with anxiety and want to overcome that. So hit that subscribe button below so you can be notified when I have those videos. I have a video called Stages Your Ex Goes Through During No Contact. And there are a few other videos that tie into that, and I mention that video quite a bit. And so I get a lot of emails asking about doing a video like this on a timeline. What am I going through? And what is my ex going through during that same time? People are wanting to know that. And so this is going to be in light of that video and those stages. I may not use the exact wording because I try to mix things up a little bit, but they will mean the same, and I will be talking about the same stages. As always, feel free to leave a comment with a question, and hopefully I or someone in the community can answer that. So depending on where you want to start the chart, we can start at the breakup event, the breakup speech, whatever you want to call it. For some of you, sadly, it was the breakup text. And that's when your ex has reached a point where they can see no other alternative. Usually, this is months of your ex trying to decide if they want to do this. And people are often surprised to learn that a lot of times your ex will go back and forth. And they'll think, I want to break up with this person. No, we just need another weekend together. We just need another night out together. We just need to have a good talk. We need to work on some things. I'll stay in this. I'll keep working. I do love them. I do love this person. And it's sort of a war. It's a back and forth in their mind because they have probably told you some things like that they love you, they will always love you, they'll never leave you, things like that. And they have assumed they would be with you, maybe forever. So it's frustrating because we want to be people who keep our word. We want to be people who are consistent and loyal and dependable. And so when this type of situation comes up, there's going to be a fight back. And they want that love back. They want that attraction back. And that's a key point, is that the breakup is primarily because there was a drop in emotional attraction. And notice that I said emotional attraction because you already passed the eye test, unless there were some extreme changes. You've already passed the eye test, and that's sort of the foot in the door for both people so that emotional attraction can happen. And so if emotional attraction falls, that's where it can be a consideration in the mind of your ex, in the mind of this person. That's where they can start thinking maybe there's not a future there. They don't want this anymore. And people will ask, why didn't they work on it? A lot of times they did. A lot of times this back and forth that I'm talking about is where they worked on it. But the reason that they don't work on it, or they don't stick with it, or that they appear to give up is because since emotional attraction has gone down, motivation has gone down. Attraction and motivation are very similar and accomplish the same things within a relationship. And if it's not there, if attraction is not there, then motivation is not there to work on the relationship. Because if they are not attracted to you and to the relationship, to what you two are together enough, then why would they want to? And so that's where we get to the breakup event. And that is the stage that your ex is at. Emotional attraction is low. They are unsatisfied with the relationship. You, on the other hand, are likely at least more satisfied with the relationship than they are. You were wanting to work on things. Maybe you knew there were some issues. Maybe you could feel the distance, but you were still in it. You weren't wanting to break up. And so you were satisfied. Even if you say, well, it wasn't perfect, so I wasn't satisfied in this area or this area, you were satisfied enough that you weren't the one breaking up the relationship. So you are classified as satisfied, and your ex is not satisfied, or dissatisfied, or unsatisfied, whichever word you'd like to use, to the point that they wanted to break up. And so they're getting this thing over with. They probably put it off for a while. They didn't want to do it. Your ex didn't want to hurt you unless they are a sick person, in which case you are better off without them. But they didn't want to hurt you. They didn't want to do this. And so they're ready to just get it over with, to get it out of the way so that you can start healing, they can start healing, and in at least the way that they think of it, they are going to move on to something better, even if that's just being alone. At the moment, they might think, I don't want to be with anybody. I just want to be alone. And they're going to sort of ride off into the sunset, and things are going to start to get better. At least that's what they think. And as we go to the next stage, which is relief, it does seem that way because they feel relieved to have gotten this breakup over with. They don't like to think about you hurting, but they figure with some time, you'll feel better, they will feel better, you'll both be in a better place, you can move on. And in some ways, they kind of assume you will both be unscathed from this breakup. And so they're confident to just walk away, and they're feeling this relief. A lot of times they go out with friends, they see family, they post a lot on social media because they're feeling good. They got the breakup over with, and it's deceptive because that's what they're feeling. They're feeling relief that they got the breakup over with. And they're assuming they're going to start living this life that maybe they felt like they were kept from living because they were in a relationship they didn't want to be in. But it's deceptive. It's usually temporary, even if it doesn't look that way. You, on the other hand, during this stage of relief, you are going through shock and sorrow. That's the best way that I can describe it. It's usually shock and sorrow. It's as though I can't believe I can hurt this much. I am in the depths of sorrow, and that it appears that this person is not the person you knew. You don't know what happened. You were blindsided. How could this happen? How could God let this happen? How could this person do this to me? All these how could questions. And a lot of times having those questions results in you wanting to reach out to your ex to ask. I have a video about that called Should You Ask Your Ex Questions About the Breakup? Because you want an answer. You feel like you deserve an answer. And you do. Now, it's not the best strategy for you to try to get the answers if you want your ex back. But I do agree. You deserve the answer. That doesn't mean that you will get it. Because in life, we don't always get what we deserve. It's that way for everyone. And so realizing that you may deserve the answer, but it's not in your best interest to go seek it right now is going to help you, especially if you want your ex back. And so it's helpful at this point if you have a plan, because I know from 20 years of experience in the relationship recovery industry, in the coaching service, that you're tempted to do things that are the absolute wrong thing. And I have lots of videos on that where a lot of what you think makes sense, a lot of what you feel you want to do is actually the worst thing you could do if your goal is to get your ex back. And I do read some of the comments as much as I have time, and I do know that there's anger and this feeling within you that says, I deserve these things. I should get the answer to this. I should be able to express this. I should be able to go and demand closure. Again, I understand that completely. My goal for you is for you to get what you want, which if you're watching this video, it's likely that you want your ex back. And so whereas these other things feel like there's something that you want, we need to have goal clarity and not goal confusion. If your goal is only to get closure, then by all means, demand it. Bug your ex. Make them tell you. But if your goal is to get your ex back, understand that this is a bit more of a fragile situation. That maybe this needs a scalpel and not a sledgehammer. And if I hadn't seen this for 2 decades, I might be telling you, yes, you deserve these things. Go get them. And I know there are some coaches who say that. They say that out of ignorance. But when you have enough experience to see enough cases, and you can sit back and say, you know, I'm noticing a pattern here. This is a mistake. Because when it happens, most of the time, this person is not able to reattract their ex and they actually push them away. I don't want that for you. That's why I'm being honest with you. That's why I'm telling you what you need to do. And the first thing you need to do is to establish goal clarity. You want your ex back? There are going to be some things along the way that you feel like maybe you don't get to have exactly what you want in that moment. It's called delayed gratification. You need to compare what you want right now to what you really want, because what you want in the moment is often fleeting. It will often change. But your ex and you together, reuniting that relationship, especially if you want it to be long-term, is probably more what you really want. So let's stay focused on your goal, which is getting your ex back. So in this stage where your ex is feeling relief and you're feeling shock and sorrow, you might even start to feel desperation. The temptation will be to reach out. I'm saying don't do that. I have a video that I will link to with the others that I've mentioned that's called The Psychology of the No Contact Rule. And it's a powerful explanation on why no contact works, what it does to your ex, how it impacts them. It's not a game. It's not manipulation. It's actually giving them the consequences of their actions. It's giving them what they are asking for, which is a lost art in today's world. We try to take away any consequence that anyone might feel for any action that they do. And we even teach our kids oftentimes that it's someone else's fault and they should pay for it, not you, even when it's their fault. And so when your ex breaks up with you, rather than demonstrating to them that you will desperately try to clean up their mess, show them that you will let them have their mess. You will not fix it for them. You will let them experience the consequences, because how else will they know if they really want the breakup if you don't leave them alone and give them what the breakup is supposed to mean, which is that you're not there anymore. It's giving them your absence. So that video, Psychology of the No Contact Rule, is where you should be launching from in terms of doing the things you need to do to get your ex back. And so I'm assuming that's what you want. And in that stage, you will need that knowledge. You'll need to probably watch that video more than once just to really reestablish and reaffirm in your mind why you're doing it and what you're doing. So the next stage that your ex will be going through is curiosity. And that's brought about by no contact as well. They're not hearing from you. What other option do they have? Because the arrogance of the dumper is an interesting psychology. When someone breaks up with another person, the person who does the dumping kind of assumes that they can get you back whenever they want, that you will always be an option because they were the one who broke up with you. They pushed it aside. And so the assumption is eternal that you want the relationship. That's what they feel. They may not put it into words. They may even deny it. But I have been doing this long enough and I've talked to enough people in that situation that I can tell you, once you peel back a lot of those layers that they don't even realize are there, that's actually the concept that they are embracing, that they could break up with you and get you back. That's why they're able to do it, because they're not accepting at the moment that there's any loss in the picture for them because they're in control. You're the one taking the loss. I explain that a lot in other videos. It's like dealing with a dictator. When you give someone all the power over you. So, for example, in government, if there's a dictator, whether that's how the government's always been set up, or if he assumes that power slowly and now has power to take your income, your property, to execute you, to send an army to kill you, basically to where you have no rights, you have no say. All you can do is beg for mercy because you don't have any power. You don't have any other avenue. And that's the power you give your ex in this situation because they have all the control. They're the ones wanting the breakup. So because they don't want what you want, all you can do is say, have mercy. I want this and you don't. Would you please just tolerate me? Is basically, without realizing it, that's what you're asking of them. So the assumption is there without them necessarily having the wording in their mind or really haven't even thought about it too much. They just assume they could get you back because they're the ones who decide to break up, not you. You're going to always want to get back together. You're going to always want them. That's what it feels like. That's why they go into relief. They got it over with. They dumped you. They hurt you. But there's no consequences for my actions. Somebody else will take care of that. Somebody else will fix this for me. Because if I ever want them back, I can get them back. They'll fix it if I messed up. And no contact is the best way to poke some holes into that beautiful little theory. And that brings them into curiosity because you're not behaving like you should be. You should be reaching out. They should be a little bit annoyed that you won't leave them alone. They should be having to say, no, we're not going to get back together. No, I'm not going to have coffee with you. They should be continuing in the pattern of being the rejector, and you are the one being rejected. You see, pattern interruption is something as humans we hate because it usually means that maybe things are not going to continue as they have been, or that we were mistaken in our assumption. And so you not acting like the rejected because they're not getting the opportunity to continue to reject you, is a pretty hard slap in the face to their theory. Because in the movies and in the breakups they've seen in life, be it their friends or even other breakups they've been involved in, the person who was rejected oftentimes becomes desperate enough to beg and plead and cry and just do whatever they think that might give them a chance to even grasp at a straw with this person. And now you're not doing it. You're not acting like the other people they've seen in movies or in the breakups that they've seen. You're not following suit, even to just what they assume you would do, because again, they're the ones with the power. They're the more attractive one because they broke up with you after all. And you were the one who wanted to stay because you were so attracted to them. And so you aren't playing ball like you're supposed to be. What's going on? They're curious. And this is a stage where the person who's been dumped, it's tricky to pin down exactly what they're going through. They could still be going through a lot of that desperation, that shock, that sorrow. But they often will go through a curiosity themselves, where you're curious because you're in no contact. You're kind of curious if it's having an impact. Maybe you have even seen some signs. I have a few videos on signs that your ex is hurting, signs that your ex is pretending to be over you. I'll link to some of those in the description below. Take a look at those, because if you've noticed some of those, it's interesting. People who notice those are often curious. Wow, this is working. Coach Lee was right about this. Maybe you've gotten my emergency breakup kit and you're just following the kit. And now you start seeing these signs. You become curious. Maybe you didn't think you'd be noticing this quickly. Or you could be curious because you're not seeing these things and it's concerning. There's a lot that can be going on in the mind of the person who was dumped during this stage. It's often a form of curiosity, even if it's a negative, almost like a dread, or if it's sort of a positive in that it's like, I didn't know that it was working this quickly. I didn't know it would work this quickly. I didn't know the emergency breakup kit would be that effective. Something like that. And so you could both be in a form of curiosity at this stage, which is fairly interesting that you're both wondering about the other person. It's almost certain that your ex is going to be in this curiosity stage at some point, just wondering, because if anything, it's for their ego. They expected you to be chasing, to be pursuing and trying to get them back, and you're not. And it stings a little bit because they thought they were more attractive. What if they're not as attractive as they thought they were? What if you're a little more attractive than they thought you were? It's kind of a beautiful thing when you think about it. The next stage that your ex goes through is concern, where things are getting a little bit serious. You're not playing ball. They expected by now you would reach out. They've been curious for a little while, but they thought you'd still pick up their mess. You'd fix the eggshell that they've broken, and you're not doing it. So they're getting concerned about this. And that's when sometimes they can reach out to you. They're not where they need to be yet. That cake in the oven is not completely finished, and they might just reach out because they want you to bail them out. They want you to basically say, hey, don't worry about it. I still get back together with you if that's what you want. I'm still chasing you. You just didn't realize it. They want you to take care of it for them. They're basically calling to say, will you clean up my mess? Now, they're not going to say that, obviously, in those words, but if they reach out and they say, hey, how are you? And you say, I've missed you so much. Can we please get back together? You just checked off that box for them, and they can go back to relief because you're the one who's going to take care of it. You still want to get back together with them. There's nothing for them to worry about. There's no consequence. They want you back. They can get you back whenever they want. So there's no rush. There's no hurry. There's nothing to be concerned about. You don't want to do that for your ex. You are basically causing an avalanche of everything you've accomplished so far by doing that. What you do want to do, which I talk about in the video that was actually made right before this one, which is what to do when your ex reaches out during no contact, is you want to be polite and casual. You don't want to ignore them. You can watch the rest of that video for more information, but just know that you're not going to try to be mean and make a point, and you're not going to ignore them either. You're going to be casual and polite, which actually can get under their skin even more because they want you to fix it for them. They want to feel more emotion from you. They want to feel more joy that they've reached out to you. And when you're just sort of patient and calm, no big deal, I'm doing fine, how are you? You are actually continuing to not follow suit. You are actually continuing to interrupt that pattern. And so you're actually frustrating them in a good way even more and making them reconsider this thing. Because you see, you don't just want to get them back because they're frustrated or curious or because their ego's taking a shot. You want them to reflect and reconsider what's happening. And the reason they haven't been able to do this before is because they're in relief and they figure they can always get you back. They can't actually know if they want this breakup until they face the potential of loss, and that is that they could not get you back. So that's where you've got to get them. That's why it's going to be difficult while you're in no contact. If it was easy, then nothing would be happening. Things happen when you actually go through difficulty, when you are able to push through, when you are able to know your goal and to insist that you keep moving that direction. That's when good things happen. When it's easy, usually nothing's getting accomplished, and that's why it's easy, because there's no traction. But usually in this stage, the person who has been dumped is actually getting a bit of confidence. Now, I'm not saying that you think you can take on the world at this moment. Some of you will be in that place, but that you at least have more confidence than you did, especially if you've seen some of those signs or you just feel the earth moving under your feet. And sometimes it's a gut feeling. It's pretty spooky how sometimes people have told me it just feels like maybe they're moving forward with this in my direction, that they are feeling some of this, that they are curious, that attraction is being revived some, that they're reconsidering this. It's amazing how sometimes you can just feel it. And I talk about that some in my emergency breakup kit, that it's interesting how this happens, and it's not something a lot of us can explain super well. I have a video called How the Law of Attraction Can Get Your Ex Back, and I talk about it in there, and I'll link to that in the description below as well. If you're liking this video, please click like. If you're liking this video, please subscribe, and you can also leave me a tip. If this video is really helping you and you feel like you're getting something out of it, or my other videos, I will leave a link to my tip jar, and you could share the love. So in this stage where you get some confidence, you are actually putting yourself in a remarkable place to reattract your ex should they reach into the next stage, which is contact. Because they've gone past curiosity, they're now concerned, they're even going into some of that desperation and panic, and maybe even some of that sorrow that you were in early on, because they are beginning to think that maybe they could want you back, but that they could not get you back. They are feeling powerless, which is not what they have felt. They were the dictator. They had all the power. They had your income, they had your property, they had an army. You could only beg for mercy. But now, it looks like maybe that's not true. It looks like maybe you could be the one who could move on, because you could stay away. You have proven you could stay away from them. That's what you've been doing. You haven't been reaching out. You've proven you're stronger maybe than they thought you were. So now all of a sudden, you are the one with more of the power than you had. And so if they get to that point where they feel that they could lose you, that they could want you back and not be able to get you back, they will oftentimes contact you. They want to check, but they also can reach a point where now they see that your value is substantially more than they thought. And we're imperfect people. You may be thinking, well, they should have seen that to begin with. I agree. I also agree that we're not perfect. And sometimes people just mess up. They don't know what they feel. They don't know what they think. And sometimes they have to be reminded. And if attraction fell and they didn't think they wanted it, that's kind of the reality they were in. And there's not a lot that can be done about that at the moment. Sometimes it takes this reset, this recalibrating, where they can reflect and they can see it. And so if you're at the point where they can see it, avoid being angry about that. Avoid saying, well, now you contact me. What about 2 months ago? Why did you break up with me in the first place? Avoid that. Remember, anger shows weakness. We all get angry. Nobody's perfect. So sometimes you can be angry. Doesn't mean you show it, because they will feel that they still have you. If they are causing this kind of emotional response in you, in some ways it tells them that you still have not moved on, that you were able to be gotten back, that they haven't lost you. You don't want to tell them that. Show that confidence that you've been developing. And I don't mean that you be arrogant or cold or mean or tell them that they messed up, but just that it's not a big deal, that you're living a great life, that you have family who loves you, friends who love you, hobbies you're pursuing, that you have a life you want to be living. And so you don't have time for anger. You don't have time for revenge. You don't have time for being rude or ignoring them or blocking them on social media, because you're living a good life. No need for that. Let them feel that from you. And like I said, I do have a video about what to do when your ex reaches out during no contact. And I talk about that a ton in the emergency breakup kit, which I'll link to in the description below. But those are the stages side by side, the timeline comparison of the dumper versus the person they dumped. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. And as I mentioned, you can leave me a tip if this video has been helpful. This has been Coach Lee, and as always, thank you for watching.